A wonderful member of this group sent me a video yesterday, so thank you for doing that. And the video was from a company that offers tinnitus retraining therapy online. And what they were talking about in this video was the quote mechanisms of how tinnitus is creating. And they went through the whole process of explaining the hair cells and the dead hair cells and all of these sorts of things. And I can tell you, I can repeat all of that because it's been my life for 28 years or so now. And I get it, it makes sense to a certain point. But what they're missing is some really big gaping holes in this theory. So, first, if it was just about hair cells and those dead hair cells are what leads to tinnitus because that area is dead and it continues firing or whatever it may be, then why do people who don't have hearing loss have tinnitus? Okay. The other question I want you to think about is if someone has tinnitus and their hearing loss is in a certain range, but their tinnitus is outside of that range, well, why? That doesn't make sense because if their hair cells aren't dead there, why would they have a tinnitus sound where it's not dead? So that kind of goes against the theory that we've been told. Additionally, there's lots of different sounds for tinnitus. And when I'm doing this discussion right now, it has nothing to do with pulsatile tinnitus. That is a completely different mechanism altogether. I'm talking about more subjective tinnitus. And so the last part that I just want you to think about is again, there's a lot of different sounds to tinnitus. Some people hear chirping, some hear buzzing, some hear roaring, water rushing, sounds like frying. Some people hear music or talking. So there's all these different sounds to tinnitus. Well, if it was just about dead hair cells, wouldn't they all sound the same? Wouldn't the mechanism be the same if it was that simple? We've got to go deeper. We've got to do better. And again, this is why I really go towards more of the cellular level. Now, I would tell you that, as an audiologist, I was told if you have a nerve hearing loss, sensory neural hearing loss, your hearing can't be improved. That's not true. Now, it may not come back up to normal, but I have, in my own experience, been able to help people's hearing come back 10 or 15 dB. And believe it or not, that's a significant amount of change because it's the difference between needing a strong hearing aid and needing a mild gain hearing aid. So, being able to improve your hearing is really important. So, if I can improve hearing when we're told we're not able to, why wouldn't we be able to improve the mechanisms that cause tinnitus? And it really goes back to restoring health. The other thing that I wanted to just touch base on is that anxiety is the biggest driver for those that struggle to deal and cope with tinnitus. I don't care if you have anxiety or not. My ultimate goal is to still have that tinnitus either reduced or eliminated completely. But if you do have anxiety, your ability to cope with that noise becomes a very stressful situation, and that will further amplify tinnitus. For some people, just wearing hearing aids and the stereotypes that come along with wearing hearing aids creates a stressful situation in the body that makes tinnitus worse. That's why some people do worse with hearing aids and others do just fine. It really comes to how we're processing things up here. So when we talk about anxiety, anxiety is controlled primarily through the neurotransmitters in the brain. But what can control those neurotransmitters? Well, a good portion of that is your gut. So if your gut is off or your vagus nerve is not working well, you don't even have to have so many digestive issues. Just if the bacteria is off, if you're tense, the muscles aren't going to work right to really digest food properly, all sorts of things. So let's kind of go back to where we're talking about at the cellular level and how the explanations that we've been given sound great in theory, but they're missing big big pieces to the puzzle here. And that's what I'm trying to find for you. I don't believe in band-aids. When I work with my clients on my health side, I'm not band-aiding them. I'm fixing them. I find the root cause. Tinnitus is a little bit more esoteric. It's a little bit more mysterious and in la la land. But I do think if we approach it from a different area, we're going to find what consistently works. What are consistent drivers for it. Um, so we'll put that out there. And then I'll have another video later today just kind of chatting about that. And I have another one coming up too.